Hello, I'm JW. This time I've got an item to have a look at, and it's this, which is a motion detector. This is a pretty old one, as you can see from the box, and this one apparently has never been used. It's basically as it was from the factory. Now, so this is a pretty old thing, and it doesn't actually come with any instructions either, for one reason or another, just the thing in itself and the box that it came with. So I'm going to open this up and have a look inside and see how it actually works, and possibly compare it to a more modern equivalent as well. Now, this was sent in by Jim, and this is basically what we've got. It's a light control system sensor head. They have a Racal, which doesn't exist anymore, and you can see on the side here this was actually made in Britain, and this is an RLC1S. Now, this doesn't actually come with any instructions. Have a look inside. All we've got is basically the thing itself. There it is, and it's lovely browny beige 1970s colour plastic. And then we've got a box of a couple of screws there and some plugs which fit into the side holes on this once you've set it into position. So that is basically it. Now, there's the side of the box, and that's basically all the information it's actually providing. There's nothing on here about voltage or how it's installed or anything else, so that side is like that, and then the other side is basically the same in smaller letters there with the Made in Britain on the bottom. So let's have a look at the thing itself. On the front here we've got the window where the, presumably it's a passive infrared type of thing that would detect the infrared there. It comes with this rather large bracket, just screws on the wall, and then in the side here you've got a nut and a screw on the other side just to lock it into position once you've attached it to the wall. And on the back of the bracket you've just got the same label that was on the outside of the box, basically just the model number RLC1S, and this is batch 939. Now, the top of this thing is removable. It basically slides forward. There's a sort of a clip thing at the front, and this is obviously where the wiring would connect. And we've just got 4 wires here, just labelled 1, 2, 3 and 4, and coloured there black, red, green and yellow, where the yellow has faded somewhat and is now white. So presumably this is going to be say a 12 or 24 volt type of thing, probably not mains voltage. I'd guess it's probably going to be power on 2 of them and then a contact on the other 2. So those go down to the back there. There is a hole in the back, presumably where the wiring would come through out the back there, and that is pretty much it. In terms of the unit itself, this back cover looks like it would actually come off of there. It does also turn from left to right in a fairly limited range there. Certainly not even near 100, it's more like 90 degrees one way to the other, and bizarrely it will actually point straight down. So obviously in normal use you wouldn't generally take the whole thing apart, so we'll take it apart anyway just to see what we've got. So that basically comes off the side there. So just screw in a nut goes through the main body of it. That has certainly released that part of it. Now it seems that this back piece just clips on, so it just releases like that. And then this is the main unit here, so we have to remove the actual screws from the wires here. So that is just the mounting bracket, a few holes there to presumably attach it to a wall, although there's no corresponding holes on the front there, just that one at the bottom and the 2 on the top, so presumably that's just for support in the centre of it. There's a O-ring there for sealing, just goes around the centre there, presumably just to not necessarily keep moisture out, but probably just to provide a bit of a grip in the middle as it rotated. And then we've got just 2 screws on the back of the unit here, so we'll just undo those. And so there's no age on this thing, but it's going to be pretty old. I think we're looking at 1980s at the very latest. The brown plastic kind of gives that away, plus the fact it's made in Britain. Let's face it, none of this stuff is made here anymore, so let's just see if we can pry into it. Right, so that's just the back plastic cover, and this is the piece that holds it onto the bracket, and this is what we have inside. So that is just the front moulding, again just the same brown plastic, and it's got that white window on the front there, presumably where the infrared or whatever it goes in, assuming it is infrared, which seems most likely. So this is the unit out of it, and it's all plastic. This is a metallised plastic here, but it's still plastic. And have a look in the front there. At the front here we've got the sensor, which is going to be the infrared detector, and then at the back we have this mirror curved there with two sections at the top and bottom, and again divided into individual facets there. So the idea here is that infrared from the environment will go in and then be reflected from the various mirrors there onto the sensor, and then there's actually there's generally two pieces in the actual sensor itself, so that if you've got an object in the environment which is moving across the front of this, it's going to reflect onto one of these initially and then another one and so on, so it will actually go onto one of the two sense elements in there, and therefore it's comparing the difference between basically the background and then the one that's actually moving, so it also then detects there's an object moving across in front of it. So this is plastic. That bottom piece in there looks like some sort of decayed foam material, which obviously is long since disintegrated. So let's see if we can get this open a bit further. Warranty seal there, but unfortunately the warranty has expired, so we'll just be cutting right through that. And there's another label here, so guess what? Warranty expired once again. And it doesn't appear to be held together with anything else, so yeah, it's just a plastic piece on the front, and then this piece on the back. This metallising here will be to prevent any infrared from actually getting through, obviously from the other side or from different angles, because obviously that would affect the operation of it considerably. Now, will this come out? Yes, it will. So again, this is just another piece of moulded plastic with the faceted mirror in the back there. Yeah, it's various bits of crud from the base sort of stuck to it. And this is the module inside with all of the electronics. I say all because there's not actually that much in here. There's the back of the circuit board there. This is all encapsulated in some sort of resin material. And so unfortunately the top seems to have gone into this rather strange decomposing form, which is certainly not ideal, but then so it's probably 30, 40 plus years old anyway. Now I can't actually see a whole lot on the top here, but we can see the infrared detector there, which is the main sensing deal, obviously angled at the correct way to go onto that mirror. Other than that, we've just got the 4 wires going in, which says probably power on 2 of them and a switched contact on the other. A few capacitors there on the top there, the top of what looks like a transistor, and a couple of resistors over that side. And not a whole lot else to see. On the back there we can see the circuit traces there. There's obviously some kind of chip in the middle here. You can see where the pins are and the 2 rows of 7 or however many that is, and the rest of it will just be various other components. An awful lot of things on here in terms of pins, but then bearing in mind the age of this thing, it would have had a fairly large number of components in it. It doesn't look in the best condition, so it seems to have a certain amount of corrosion there, unless it's just the resin stuff that's discoloured over the years. So if we have a look in from the back, you can see there's that sort of rather green tinge along the back there, which doesn't look particularly good. Now this resin stuff isn't particularly hard, as we can see here. It does pull out relatively easily, so let's just see if we can pry in here without causing too much damage. So obviously we're not going to be using this item because it's basically completely obsolete, but let's at least see what we can see inside. Yeah, the bottom plastic piece is rather thin and flimsy, to say the least. And I say this is a fairly soft kind of potting compound of some sort. No doubt this was put in here to prevent moisture ingress, so it doesn't have to be hard as nails to do that. Yeah, this bottom tray is incredibly thin. It's just literally a frame to hold the circuit board in. Yeah, there's the bottom of it. It doesn't actually look too bad once it's out of the resin there. It's just this horrible discoloured gunk on the top. Right, that cleaned up fairly well, so at least we can see what's on here. So a single chip there, which is an LM324. I believe that's an op-amp, so it's just comparing two signals, which is going to be the two from the infrared detector there. Other than that, there's not a whole lot on here other than a big stack of resistors over here, one not installed there. Looks like a diode on the end there, a couple of larger block or ceramic resistors here, little electrolytic there, and a couple over that side, a few more ceramic resistors there, just two over that side, a couple in the centre there, and then the rest of it, say another load of resistors in the middle, possibly another diode there, and say a little capacitor right next to the chip there. And then the only other sort of active component is it on the front here, which will be a transistor presumably. So what's that, a BC238B, so that's pretty much it. And then on the front here we've got, looks like an LED, again a fairly early style there. See the two electrodes inside, a sort of a rather odd square, totally transparent package. So this is definitely not a mains voltage item. It's presumably either 12 volts or something along those lines. And so I've got our wires going in here. There's actually a bit of corrosion there where it's sort of on green, which as you can see it sort of followed through onto the back, cleaned it up reasonably well. Only mark I see is PL592C, which is presumably just the circuit number or the particular model number. So quite a lot of components in there, all to do basically what is fairly a straightforward task, just compare the two levels and then trigger an output when that is done. So it's going to be this comparing the two outputs from this one. When that goes over a certain threshold, presumably the transistor will switch on, and then that will come out on two of these wires, possibly the white and green, and the other two being for a power supply. And that is pretty much all we've got. And then there's the front view of the sensor there, and so that just points at that curved mirror, and it's normally there's two things inside, sort of split down the middle, so one gets a different signal to the other depending on the exact position you are or where the object is moving relative to the background. And finally, the chip here, that's got some number there, 8806, that may be some kind of date, so that could be June 1988. Certainly would be in the right sort of time frame for that. No dates on anything else, of course, but could be a 88 date from that. Now, as a comparison to that, which is, say, presumably from 1988 or the 1980s, this is the sort of modern equivalent. This one's actually broken. It was removed from some installation a while ago, but this is a mains powered job, and it does the same kind of basic function. It's a passive infrared detector, but in the case of this one, let's have a quick look inside. Just get the screws out of here. This is one of these fairly cheapo ones that you can get in the usual dubious supplies. I believe this one had failed because it was full of water, as evidenced by this screw in here being rather corroded. Now this is a mains powered job. It's basically three wires here, line and neutral in on the two there, and then the red one is switched to line when the signal is detected, so you just generally connect your permanent power here, and then the outgoing one connects to your light fitting or whatever to switch on when required. So this particular one is a busted one, so let's just remove the wires from that. There is a cover that goes over the top of this. Normally when it's on the wall it just sits on the wall like that, and then this piece is adjustable to wave in whichever direction you find appropriate. Just has a thumb turn type thing in the middle. Just take that out completely. Quite a similar arrangement in the middle compared to the 1980s one. So 3 wires there, and then in the top here you can see there's actually 2 circuit boards in there. Wires come in the back, and then we have this plastic lens on the front. Now these work in pretty much the same way, except there's no mirror. What we've got instead is a plastic lens, and again see it's divided up into those various segments there. Again, 2 layers, so that infrared coming outside is going to be focused onto the sensor element in the middle there. So rather than a mirror, it's just a cheapo bit of plastic. And see if we can get these boards out of here. Yes, that will hopefully come out of there. So this has a 2-board design, 3 wires going in there. Now bearing in mind that this whole board here is going to be essentially a power supply, because this is 230 volts AC coming in here, and then this part here is basically the actual sensoring part. So on this board then we've got a capacitor there. It's going to be a capacitive dropper, so it's going to be a straight line comes in through that one, and then we've got a large resistor here as well. A row of diodes there. 4 of those are going to be just a bridge rectifier, a little capacitor for smoothing purposes, and then the output on this is via this relay here, and most of these do have an actual relay in, so that when the motion is detected it does physically make a switch there. There were a few of these which had electronic switching in, but those are generally a waste of time, particularly now with LED lighting, because on a lot of those the current that flows isn't enough to reliably keep the thing on, so most of these just have an actual relay there. And we can see they're rated 10 amps to 50 volts, so again that's more than plenty for your average lighting. There's a diode here presumably to go across the coil so it doesn't put a big spike of power through when the thing turns off. Got a slot here for isolation, and that's going to be between the 230 volt side here and then obviously the 12 or whatever voltage on this side. So not a whole lot there apart from the relay and a little basic capacitive dropper power supply. Wires coming across there, and it's just sort of a very crude sort of ribbon type arrangement. There's only 3 of them, so it's going to be a power supply sort of 0 and 12 volts or whatever it is, and then just a signal coming back to turn the relay on and off. And on the board here, infrared sensor in the middle, and that'll have again the 2 elements in there to compare the 2 that are coming in. So one of them will have, or in the default state they'll both be the same because it's going to be background, and because of the lensing effect, depending where you are, it's only going over to 1/2 of that sensor, and that will show up as a difference between the 2 halves. That will trigger the output. This one also has this light dependent resistor here, and that's to detect how light it is outside. So essentially this only turns on and operates when it's dark. 3 adjustments on the bottom here. This is going to be for how long it stays on once the thing has been triggered, how dark it needs to be, and the other one is presumably a sensitivity adjustment. Have a look on the case here, you can see sensitivity time and then how dark or otherwise it has to be, and those are just little plastic things that shove through the bottom of the moulded case. Other than that, we've just got some electrolytic capacitors on the top here and a single chip. Not a whole lot on the back. There's quite a few of these little capacitors here, a few surface mount resistors there, and then say a couple of these diodes over here. So quite a number of components on here, but of course being surface mount they are considerably smaller than in the much older design there. And let's see what the chip is. So here's the chip. And yep, it's an LM324, so it's basically the same chip as in the other one. The only difference here is that we've got rather different mounting arrangement, but in terms of the component count or whatever, it's going to be not too far off, because say there's a lot of these on here. The little black ones are going to be resistors, and then the browny ones will be capacitors, and we've got these little diodes here. And then that there presumably is the output transistor which turns the relay on and off. So just a 3-pin deal there, and then one of those will go across on this flat cable thing across to where the relay is on the other board. So that's the circuit board that side, and that's what we've got on the top. PH5802C and various other numbers on there. And if we've got a date code on that one, not really, well, FE3, who knows what. This is a fairly modern one. This has only been in for a few years, so it's going to be less than, 5 years old, I should think, at the absolute maximum. So there we go, modern one on the left and a 30 or 40-year-old one on the right. So basically the same chip. Uses a mirror, that one, that uses a plastic lens. This has got the extra feature of a light sensor, whereas this does not. And although this has got, say, a load of resistors and things on the top, they're basically on the bottom of this board instead. So design-wise, probably almost exactly the same. So two infrared sensors, one from the 1980s, the other one from only a few years ago, and yet they use exactly the same chip in there, the LM324. Most of the circuit is going to be pretty much the same. Of course, the main difference being that the outdoor black one is mains powered, so it has that extra board to change the voltage down, say probably 12 or something, and the other one was almost certainly going to be a 12-volt thing direct. So that is it for this video. Until next time, thanks for watching.